All right.
Yeah, dude, awesome. We are live, back for the zZounds Live Gear Expo with Pioneer DJ and PJ, so a longtime friend of zZounds. So good to have you here, man.
For sure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. So what are we looking at today?
So today we're going to be talking about the brand new battle mixer from Pioneer DJ, the DJM-S7, which is Bluetooth enabled. That's why I have my phone over here. So, and it has a couple new features on it that are first time for a battle mixer and also first time for a Pioneer mixer. So it was launched during NAMM last week, and a lot of people were, like one of the things about NAMM this year, it was virtual, so people never really got to try it out. So we're trying to show everybody how it works and what makes it different from the S11. If you're making a choice between the S7 and the S11, which is the flagship battle mixer that came out a couple months before.
Mm-hmm. Dude, yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome just being able to put it in front of people in a somewhat live setting, Because like you said, with NAMM, it's unfortunate that we're not all, able to be there and see this stuff in person. So this is awesome, you being here and, showing it off for us. So
for sure.
And it was cool because what you were doing at the beginning, if someone is just joining, is you were playing that beat from your phone.
Yep.
But it was going Bluetooth through the mixer, and then you were scratching over it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Basically the new thing on the S7 is that it has a Bluetooth input device, and I have it paired right now. So it's great for practicing your scratches if you just want to play a beat from a beat app, and that way you have your channel free. Because before, one of the things is that a lot of DJs started using their phone or mobile device to play beats out of, so that they could do their scratch practice. But we know now that a lot of phones, unlike mine, which is an old one that's still a success with a headphone output, new phones don't have that. So the Bluetooth input is for those folks that want, they don't want to have the dongle with the auxiliary cable and then your phone runs out of battery because you don't have the proper adapter to charge and connect it via audio. So that's what the Bluetooth is for. And what's cool with the Bluetooth is that you can route it to either one of the channels and it runs parallel from the deck that's playing. So it's not only that you have a Bluetooth input, you could route it through the channels, have the EQ and the filters and the effects on it if you chose to, and it runs on the same side, along with whatever the Serato or the DJ software deck is playing there.
That's awesome. Cool, man. So, so this is the S7. The S11 has been out. What can you kind of go over some of the features that are similar with the S11 and kind of what's new as well?
Yeah, for sure. So it uses the same Magville Fader Pro, which is an improved one from compared to the S9. It's made to be 30% more rigid so that it doesn't break off. It can handle the stress. If you actually try to touch it, it doesn't move around as much. So, and a couple of the identical feature is the pad modes. It has the same pad modes that are independent now. So meaning for each DJ deck, you can independently be on a separate pad mode, because on the S9, for S9 users, they know this. You can only do one pad mode for both, unless you do a hack to it. Well, for this, it's independent pad modes, and we took it a step further. We did combo pad modes, which allows you on one channel to be able to do 2 pad modes at a time, 2 primary pad modes. So if I took hot Q and held sampler, I have my first 4 hotkeys on the top, and I have my sampler bank on the bottom. And if I did roll and save looped, which I don't really have any on this deck, which is why it's clear, but I literally have 4 pad modes. And while it looks like there's 2 pad modes for every pad mode button, because it says hot Q and pitch play, there's actually a total of 4. So there's new pad modes in there, like if I double click hot Q, there's gate mode, and then if I hold shift and double click, it turns yellow, which is the user modes, which you can customize yourself.
Nice.
And then as far as other similarities to the S11, the new pad modes, which are gate Q, and then there's transport mode, which allows you to DJ off the mixer. Say your needle broke or your phase isn't pairing correctly or it ran out of battery. Oh, no, not battery, but let's just say some people have pairing issues once in a while with the phase.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's just a nice way so that you can play directly off the mixer without your turntable or without your deck, just so that like you don't have to depend on the decks, because for some people that might mean if my needle broke, I can't play anymore. Not with this mixer, not with the S11 as well. So, and then there's this new feature that was introduced on the S11 called Scratch Bank. And what Scratch Bank is, if you look here on my Serato, I have my sampler bank up here, but then over here where I have my mouse is another, it looks like a sampler bank. And it's actually what's called the Scratch Bank. And what you can do with it is you can load songs into these 8 little slots and be able to trigger each song directly on the pads. So every pad is a new loaded track. For this one, I loaded the same scratch sample, but I'm triggering them, I'm launching them from different hotkeys, which you can do here. So say the A sample. The point of the Scratch Bank is so that, say you're playing a song and you want to do a scratch solo to it, you can immediately load the song using the Scratch Bank, and then once you're done scratching, you can go back to the song that was loaded, or you can load a new song. What's also cool about the Scratch Bank, because it literally triggers songs directly from the pads, you can load an entire routine. Say you do a musical act, maybe with a rapper or a singer, and Jazzy Jeff mentioned this, where he said him and Will can do routines with the Scratch Bank, because you can have an entirely new song on each pad and just quickly be able to pull them out without going into your Serato crates, your playlist. It's just one after another. And while each bank holds 8, you have 4 banks, A, B, C, and D. So you could do up to 32 with the Scratch Bank. So if you have a routine that's like many songs, more than 8, you could do up to 32 if you wanted. And that's a feature that's also on the S11. And then the other similarities is the loop feature. The auto loop is you have two options for auto loop. The default is now Serato style, meaning wherever you leave your cursor and you click auto loop, whatever loop length you leave it, that's where the auto loop's going to set. That's Serato style. Now you have the option to change it back to the old DJM-S9 style, where you can have a permanent, well, permanent until you change it, but you can have a set loop no matter where this cursor is. If you have it at 8 beats, it's always going to be 8 beats when you press loop. So you have the option to, if you're used to the S9 style, you have the option to go back there. And then just a couple cleanup, like the back and load buttons are new, because the back button is smaller with a bigger load button, so that if you're in a dark club, if you're in a dark club, it's easier to find and easier to feel, so you know which one's which without looking at it.
So you don't have to take out your phone flashlight and
yeah. So, well, just so there's no confusion, because the last thing you want to happen is to be pressing the back button when you mean to press load. So
yeah, that's super smart. I mean, that's just an easy thing you can do. I mean, it's like like they have like the little bumps on like a computer keyboard, so you know where you are. It's like
exactly,
you can feel it.
Yeah.
You're good to go. But yeah, man, it's crazy how far technology has come since. Just in the last 10 years, 15 years or so.
No, for sure. And that's one of the things about this mixer, is there's actually some new tech on this that's exclusive to the S7, which is the fact that it has the same 22 effects as the S11, but there's this new feature called Loop MIDI, and I could show how that works a little later.
Sure.
But even what you'll notice compared to the S9 and the S11 is that it only has 6 effect select buttons, but it actually does a lot more than what you would initially think, because unlike the 12 on the S11 and the S9, there's actually a shift function here that lets you switch different modes. If you look, there's different colors. The blue one, which all the buttons are blue, is for the hardware effects. There's 22 hardware effects, 7 new ones, and a couple of them were borrowed from the old DJM-909 that was launched back in 2003. And then if you want hardware effects, it turns teal. So you can change each hardware effect. I'm sorry, I messed that up. If you want internal effects, it turns teal. And that's your Serato effects in there, where, let's see, up here, you can see on the cursor, if you set these, you can select each one of those. So just going back real quick to the beat effects, the hardware effects when it turns blue, there's 6 buttons that you can press. So like the default would be echo, backspin flanger, reverb, vinyl break, and phaser. But on each one, you can change the effects by holding it down and turning the browse knob. So now I have, if let's say, let me just zoom in. So if you look, when I turn the browse knob, if you look on this little screen, it changes the effect. And you can change all of these to whatever effect you want just by holding the effect button. And if you want something where you can change the entire effect and have it permanently there for you for every time you get onto the mixer, there's a settings utility app that is installed on your computer when you install the driver, that you can change all the configurations of the effects to which one you want, and you have up to 2 banks, which you can access the red and the pink button. You got bank A, shift, bank B. So my bank B has a default of a ducking echo on the echo button. And then the new tech is the loop MIDI, which turns everything green or yellow. So there's 2 different settings for loop MIDI. And I'll show that in a little bit, but
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the tech that goes into it, it's making life a lot easier, I feel like, for DJs. As far as organization and customization, things like that. It seems like a lot of those ideas kind of went into the design of this.
For sure.
So I think, when people start going back, to gigging, I mean, this DJ mixer, I feel like, a lot of people are going to be, checking this thing out because not only does it have the features of some of the more expensive DJ mixers, but this is a little bit more of an affordable version of those mixers, which I think is great.
No, for sure. It's entering the market as the most, at the time of launch, as the most affordable Serato mixer that allows you to connect up to 2 laptops. So it's starting at $13.99 during launch day. So, and what's awesome is that it has a lot of features that like 2 computer, like I mentioned. You can have 2 DJs. You can be using 2 different DJ softwares, and one DJ can unplug while the other one's playing, and you could do a back-to-back, or you could do a continuous. One DJ plays, other one connects, and then the next DJ plays, disconnects, next person comes in. You can totally do that with this mixer with no awkward, like I have to play a song off a phone, even though it has Bluetooth, you could do that, but it's easy to switch out going from DJ to DJ.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember, like back in college, I had some friends that were in the DJ scene in Chicago, and I would go watch them spin, and it was always like this, like almost looked like a choreographed dance move between 2 DJs when they're switching systems, and I'm always just like, how are they doing that? And the music didn't stop, but it's like. That was really hard to do, I bet. But now, you can seamlessly kind of switch over, which I think is super cool.
No, for sure. And added to seamlessly switching over, I'm going to give you an image right now of the rear of the mixer. The rear of the mixer is actually identical to the DJM-S7 in the case of all the ports and all the inputs and outputs. And if you look right in the middle, there's 2 USB ports that say CDJ controller. That's a USB hub, so that if you're using CDJs in what's called HID mode, which is like CDJ controller mode, it allows you so that the data, it passes through the mixer instead of having an external hub. Because when you switch from one DJ to another, as far as computers, it goes through the normal USB access, but the CDJs are on a separate connection. Before, on an S9, you would have to, while you're playing, unplug the hub and switch it to the next computer, which can be kind of dangerous, as far as, it's risky because music could you never know what'll happen. What's cool with this is that because of the hub, it doesn't switch to the other computer until you switch the input selector. So it does one USB at a time to switch to the other computer, which once again, it's a feature that's also on the S11. So both the S7 and the S11 have the USB hub feature that allows you to not need to have an external hub when you're using CDJs. It's also good for having, say, a DDJ XP2 controller. You can have an external accessory controller and it'll switch to the other computer. I don't recommend it for plugging your hard drive, because once you do a input selector switch, it'll switch to the other hard drive. Now, what's cool with the USB hub is this one is a 5-volt hub, which allows you to power the phase device. So if you have the phase device, the digital needle, that Bluetooth, well, no, it's not Bluetooth, but that device that you see people use with their turntables where they don't have the needle anymore, it is enough to power it, so you don't have to plug it directly to your computer.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Did you want to go ahead and give us some musical examples of how some of these features work?
No, for sure. So I'm going to go back to the performance pads and just show you what gate Q is. So gate Q, when you're running DVS, say I have the scratch sample. Oh, yeah. What I can't do momentary use of the cues. Like I can't do press it down and hear it as I hold it, because it's dependent on the time code. What gate Q does when I switch to gate cue, as long as the DVS is turning, now I have momentary cueing of each one of my hot cues. That's a feature that was only possible when you're using a controller or you're playing off internal mode, not with DVS until gate cue was introduced. Now, what's also cool with gate cue is it allows you a feature called silent cue. When you're on a controller or CDJ, it's very easy to be able to press play from a dead stop. On a turntable, when you press play, let me load a song. There's a wind-up sound. Here, so if you're starting from scratch, there's kind of a wind-up, like an acceleration.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stop. So it's like a wah, you know?
Yep, I hear that.
Some people used to do this thing where they used to set a hot cue all the way at the end of the track where it's silent, so that when they press their hot cue while the record is playing, it sounds like it's an instant start, like you're pressing play on a CDJ or a controller. What gate cue does, right now, it's silent, but while the turntable is spinning, it's muted. But as soon as I press the first hot cue, it's like I started from a dead stop.
Yeah.
But when I let go, it's momentary. So how do I let it continue to play? So I hold it, click the hot cue pad mode button, and now it's like you press play on a CDJ or a controller. So that's what the gate cue function is. And we talked about the transport control and the scratch bank. So the other feature is the loop MIDI. The loop MIDI is basically a feature where there's a MIDI trigger coming from the mixer itself, and it can trigger in specific time intervals, and it's quantized to the beat that's playing, the tempo that's playing, and it repeats whatever it's mapped to. And there's, on loop MIDI 1, it's going to be the first 3 samples on the sampler bank and the first 3 hot cues on whatever track is loaded. So let me just bring in let's see. I'm just going to play this track just so that we have an auto loop. Okay, so the auto loop set to 130 BPM. So I'm gonna engage the echo button. I'm gonna set this loop MIDI to 1. And then now, probably can't see it right there. I have a kick on the very first sample. So now I can loop a kick directly from my sample bank. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's kind of subharmonic.
Yeah. It's deep.
I have a snare on the second one, so I can have kick, snare, kick, snare. And then if I wanted to, that kick is actually at an F minor, or an F. So if I play it, I could do little things like so you can do basically create your own beats with it. I'm just doing really, really simple stuff here, but you could put a whole sample loop in there so that it'll start playing. You can scratch with it, and then you can build around it. So it's a tool that allows you to create new beats right on the mixer, and that's doing it with the first 3 sample slots. You can also do it with the first 3 hot cues of a song. So if I have and then second hot cue. So, and what's cool is you can combine some of these. So say I wanted that kick and that first piano. And that's the first default for Loop MIDI 1. So for Loop MIDI 2, we're going to switch to when it turns yellow. It actually has a couple different, let's see, we set this for 4. It has a couple different options here. So right now it says none for my beat duration. And each one of these buttons do something else than re-trigger. So for example, if I have I could do pitch down, and then I reset it by shift, hit the paddle. Reset. And then I could go down. So I'm doing little pitch downs with it. And then each one has a different effect. So you could do a reverse, a temporary reverse, also known as a censor. Censor those curse words. And the reason why it's called Loop MIDI, there's no looping that's happening right now because I have this set to none. But you can set this so that it can re-trigger that same function multiple times at a duration that you set. So right now I have it set to 1 beat. We got a repitch here, so down. So it goes every step of the beat. If you go really fast, let's say go 1/4. Let's reset this. And reset. Down. And you can set that for any effect. You can reassign that so that it's not just whatever the default is. The thing about the S7 is because you can reassign the loop MIDI functions to do something else in Serato. Say you can do it to a roll loop, you could do it to another effect. This is the first mixer that allows you to MIDI reassign the effects paddles to anything you want, as long as it's assignable in the DJ software that you're using, which primarily it works with Serato DJ Pro and Rekordbox, and it's all plug and play. You don't have to have a license or a subscription to either one to use it with either one of those software.
Nice. Yeah, I can't believe what you can do on a mixer now. I'm not a DJ. I have a lot of DJ friends and obviously a lot of coworkers that are DJs, and I'm familiar with them. But it's just so crazy. It's not just a device now to play the music coming off your vinyl. It's you can actually make music on it, which is awesome. Yeah. So I'm completely blown away.
Yeah, there's a lot of creative tools. A lot of people there's always the notion of mixers are technology is making everything easier, but at the same time, technology is giving you more creative options that you weren't able to do before. So there's a lot of new things that we're looking forward to with when people start using the DJM-S7, especially with the loop MIDI.
Yeah, totally. And I had no idea. You could kind of use those effects like the pitch down, in a way that's set up like on the beat or on the quarter beat or anything like that. You hear the music and you just want to dance, you know what I mean? But you don't know kind of what's going on in the background. People adding the effects and people doing like the pads and things like that, and sampling. It's all kind of like like a mad scientist just like brewing up something, and then as a listener, you just want to dance to it and have a good time. So
For sure, for sure. So, but yeah, it's definitely a tool, and the thing about it is too is the S7 does have way improved sound quality compared to the S9. It's flatter. There's less distortion on it, and it's not quite up to the S11. The S11 has the superior sound quality with the dithering, but the S7 comes pretty close to that. That's one of the things people will notice. Whether they get an S11 or an S7, if they're used to an S9, they're going to hear a sonic difference. I can hear it in my studio monitors at home. Now, maybe with headphones or through a stream, it might not be as obvious, but if you can hear it in your studio, in, you know, just small studio monitors, imagine that like everything gets magnified on a big system. So once you take one of these to a gig, you'll really notice the difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think too, it's you know, a lot of DJs that I know and producers. I mean, they have an ear that's, you know, better than, you know, the common folk. So you know, when you're plugging these in and you're hearing the difference of them, like you said, you may not be able to hear it from a difference on a stream or you know, like a smaller setup. But you know, when you're in a big gig, you know, with a really nice sound system and you hear that sonic difference, it's like it's incredible. I mean, I know a lot of audiophile dudes and girls, and you know, and I think one of the coolest things in the world is to hear something in like super high fidelity.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the thing is, it's not even what you notice. It's what you notice when it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like I don't, you know, like it's not like a huge difference, but you might notice something when you walk away. Oh, my ears didn't ring tonight. What was the difference? You know, because there's no you know, odd order distortions, those frequencies that are spiking.
Interesting.
They're, you know, like those are the things that make your ears ring after. Now, I mean, loud music, you know, you still have to be safe about, but
Yeah.
a more flat frequency response with a really properly mastered song is, I would say, like, I'm not a doctor, but
Yeah.
I would imagine is safer for your ears than when you're using like low quality audio equipment and you're blasting it and there's these spikes in the frequencies that are like, you know, hurting your ear in those specific bands. Yeah.
I would have never thought of that, you know, of why of like the different sound quality coming through that's you know, just affecting, you know, your ear. And yeah, there's a lot of times where I come back and I'm like, man, my ears are ringing. But like you said, sometimes loud music just makes your ears ring.
Yeah.
but hey, you know, if you want it to be you know, not as bad, then you know, the SM7 or DJM-S7 is the way to go. Definitely.
No, for sure. And it's priced at like, you know, it's priced at a position where it's great for the person who's maybe this is their first mixer, you know, and it has features so that it's really, really easy to jump from this mixer to the S11 because, you know, the pad modes are all the same, the effects are all the same. The one major thing so let's talk about the differences between the two is the S7 is strictly a 2-channel mixer. You can only play 2 decks at a time, 2 channels only. And with the S11, it has the 4-channel capability. It's basically a 2-channel configuration with a 4-channel inside, plus the touchscreen and all the features associated with the touchscreen. One of those features being smooth echo. So there is a difference between the two mixers as far as how to, you know, like how to use them. But all the fundamentals, if you can play on one, you can play on the other pretty easily. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So maybe even if you know, if you have the S11 and you know, you have maybe a studio somewhere or you want something to bring out to gigs and leave something at home, then the S7, if you jump on it from an S11, you'll be already familiar with it.
For sure, for sure.
Well, that's awesome, man. So let's go ahead and is it cool if you play some samples, do some scratching, and kind of see what this bad boy can kind of do in real time?
For sure. Yeah, let's let me pull out some copyright-free music.
Oh yeah, yeah, I appreciate that.
So let's go back to this, and my favorite thing about the mixers is just the way the crossfader feels. It's just incredible. Like you're a guitar player, and for DJs, turntablists, it's the crossfader is really important. The thing about it is that it's, aside from what I said earlier about how durable it is, you can control the cut lag distance in the settings utility, but it also has a really mute bounce, so it's not so clicky. Like you can probably barely hear it when I get close to it. It like other other mixers might have a louder click to it, and some people prefer that because a lot of classic mixers have that. And with this mixer is you can actually change the bumper inside it if you opened it up, if you wanted a louder click. So that's one of the cool things about it.
That's awesome.
So I'm gonna just play a beat. Let me switch to top view. No, we'll leave it here. Then just use that little ducking echo at the end.
That's awesome. I took myself out of frame so I could dance around while you played that. That's awesome, man. Well, cool. Was there anything else you wanted to show off here? You kind of covered a lot there for sure.
No, for sure. It's really packed with professional features for being the price that it is. So it's our new DJM-S7 battle mixer. It's great for the battle DJ. It's great for the hip hop DJ, open format DJ. But I'm an electronic music head. I love playing with it when I want to spin turntables with the battle mixer. When it's a very versatile mixer, is what I'm saying.
So no matter
definitely
what your
something to
style
check
of
out.
DJing is, it's
you don't have to be a scratcher
to
to use one of these. So like I know a lot of people who like the S9 that weren't really scratchers. It's great if you're good with 2 channels. It has a lot of things you need that's built right into the mixer. So
awesome. Well, hey, PJ, really appreciate it, man. And did you want to go ahead and kind of we'll end it on some music here, and you'll have hopefully a great rest of your day, and hopefully we can see each other in person sometime soon.
No, for sure. I think the light's at the end of the tunnel, so we're going to be looking forward to that. Yeah. But if people want to check out more information about the DJM-S7, go to pioneerdj.com, and of course on zZounds if you want the best payment plan that's available online.
There you go. Yeah, and there's a featured link here, so you can check out the DJM-S7 at zZounds.com. So
for sure.
Thank you everybody for watching, and have a great rest of your day.
Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.